Winning Blueprint presents.
It's the Redskins Report, so it's everything Redskins and anything of the sort. The 2012 Washington Redskins, your NFC East champions, the Redskins Report.
This is the Redskins Report. I'm your host, Luke. Thank you for joining me. So, here to recap the week that was for the Washington Redskins in free agency and news and notes around the league for the Washington Redskins. And so, not a lot of good news to report. This is really a bittersweet episode that I'm doing right now because it's sort of a bad news. I'm a bearer of bad news right now. And not a lot of good things coming out of Washington at this very moment. I start off with not knowing if Fred Davis is going to be back or not. He just made an appearance on the NFL Network. He joined the NFL AM group, and he made a tour around that network on Thursday, and he talked about the prospects of him possibly being back in Washington. And he said, look, I love what they're building in Washington. I really feel like that's where I want to be. They drafted me, so there's a sense of home and a sense of belonging there because that's the first team that had you. And so I want to go back to Washington. And I've been there for a while, and they're building something. I've been there through all the losing teams and when we didn't have as much talent. Now we've got a quarterback that can get it done. We've got guys that can take some attention off of myself. We've got playmakers now, Alfred Morris, Pierre Garçon, Robert Griffin III. You add me to the mix. I feel like I'm a guy that can really explode in this offense because teams won't be able to key in on me like they were in the past. And so Fred Davis talked about all the positives about coming back to Washington, but then he also said in the same breath, look, it's a business. And I understand that they don't have a lot of money right now, and I know they want me back, but it's about playing football for me. And if it's not going to be in Washington, it's going to be somewhere else, and I'm okay with that. I just want to play football. And so he knows that the Achilles injury kind of scared a lot of teams off. Trust me, right now, we all know that if Fred Davis is coming off of a healthy campaign in the 2012 season, there's no way he's still on the market. He's gone. So our saving grace right now is that Achilles injury. Had it not been for that Achilles injury, Fred Davis is not even on the market. This isn't even a discussion. We're talking about how we didn't get Fred Davis back instead of how we need to find a way to get Fred Davis back. So he knows that that Achilles injury is the reason why he's still on the market at this point. And so he talked about how he feels like he's getting back to getting into shape and how he feels like he's starting to be able to do some of the things that he could do prior to having this injury. And so he talked about Robert Griffin III and doing rehab with him. And he said he looks great. He said that Robert Griffin III looks like he didn't even have an injury. He's doing a lot of the things that he was doing before the injury. And so Fred Davis said, I asked him, did you injure yourself? Did you have the surgery already? So that was kind of funny, but I want Fred Davis back. And you know how I feel about that. I've made no bones about it. I want Fred Davis back. I think we need to have him back in the fold in Washington. And I know the money is tight right now. We got to figure out a way to restructure some deals or something. I don't understand what the holdup is. Why we aren't doing some things in terms of restructuring contracts and talking to some players about potentially allocating money in a different direction, giving them more money up front. I don't know why we haven't expedited this process yet. We're going to wait until Fred Davis is no longer an option to then want to make some moves to get guys to restructure their deals. I don't know what the holdup is, but we can't allow Fred Davis to not be a Washington Redskin. He's a homegrown product. This is our guy. We drafted him. We groomed him. He's a good football player now. We can't allow him to go and flourish elsewhere. For too long, we've done that. And that's why I thought that this offseason was so good, because we've done a great job of holding on to our stuff. Guys that we made good. Guys that we have seen grow in our organization. You know, guys like Logan Paulson, guys like Rob Jackson, guys like Corey Lichtensteiger, who have flourished in our system. You know, we didn't draft Corey Lichtensteiger, but he's played his best football of his career with us. We drafted Logan Paulson, bro. We drafted Rob Jackson. Those are our guys. And so we kept them in the fold. That's good. That's what you want to see. I don't want to see Fred Davis go and become a Pro Bowl tight end elsewhere. If he's going to be a Pro Bowl tight end, needs to be in Washington. And so we need to figure out a way to get Fred Davis back in Washington. I don't want to hear anything else. The one thing that I can say that right now I feel really confident about is the Browns went out and made a move to get a tight end in Kellen Davis, the ex-Chicago Bears tight end. And so maybe they're out of the tight end market. Them going and getting Kellen Davis means absolutely nothing, because they can get Kellen Davis and still get Fred Davis. So doesn't mean that they're done. But it does mean that it's less likely that they'll be going after Fred Davis. And right now, it seemed like Cleveland and Washington were the two biggest suitors, maybe the two only suitors for Fred Davis's services in Washington. So if one of those teams is eliminated, and I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns, so that would leave us as the one team looking to get Fred Davis onto their roster. So that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. Let's hope that the Browns are done shopping for tight ends. They went and got Kellen Davis. They didn't trust the Achilles injury, and they just moved on. Let's hope that's the case. Because if it is, we're going to get Fred Davis back unless some other team comes off of the pace out of nowhere and talks to Fred Davis, throws some money at him, and he's gone. So let's hope that Fred Davis is going to be back in Washington, because that's what I want. That's what you should want. That's what we all want. And again, I don't like speaking for everyone else, but I feel pretty confident again in saying that Fred Davis is a guy that I think we should have back. Okay, so that was sort of the even-keeled news. I have some good news. I have some bad news for you. I told you I'm the bearer of bad news today. So let's get to the bad news. You always want to get the bad stuff out of the way, and then you get to the good stuff later. So the first bit of bad news I have is Adam Carriker, our defensive end that played so well for us in the 2011 season, was looking to have a breakout year in 2012, was gone for the majority of the season, got hurt in week 2 against the Rams, tore his quadriceps tendon, and was lost for the season. Well, he had a setback in his rehab. And when he first injured himself and was gone, there was no doubt in my mind he'd be ready for the start of the next season. Because if you get injured at the beginning of one season, there's no reason for me to think that you won't be ready for the next season. You've got basically all of that season that you have to rehab, plus the off season, then training camp, and then you should be ready to go for the start of the next season, because we're talking about basically a calendar year. Well, this setback that he had, the Redskins aren't disclosing what exactly the setback is. They're not disclosing the timetable for his recovery from this setback, but they're talking about potentially him not being ready for the start of the 2013 season. So this has to be some sort of a significant injury and setback to this quadricep tendon. I'm thinking it's got to be a quad injury. It can't be, well, he had a setback and he injured his tricep because he was working so hard on strengthening his quadricep. No. He re-injured this quadricep tendon somehow, and let's hope that he didn't re-tear it. I'm thinking he just strained it severely, and so there's a big setback here. We don't know what the prognosis for it is, and so That's very damaging because I felt like this was a guy that was really solid against the run for us. And believe it or not, I don't know if you realize this guy got 5.5 sacks in 2011. So he was getting to the quarterback from the defensive end position, something that we lacked in the 2012 season. We didn't get a lot of pressure on the quarterback in the 2012 season, especially from our defensive line. And we're hoping guys like Jarvis Jenkins can step up. Guys like Baker can start getting some pressure on the quarterback. Bowen is solid, of course, we know. We'd love to see Cofield get more pressure on the quarterback, but he got pressure on the quarterback. And so we could use a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback, and Carriker did that for us, as well as being very stout at the point of attack in the run game. And so we would love to have Adam Carriker back. And I think this is a core Redskin type of guy. He's someone that we would love to have back in the fold. And I think that hopefully this injury isn't that serious. This setback isn't as serious as it seems to be on the surface right now. Hopefully he's ready for the start of training camp. If they're talking about potentially not being ready for the start of the season opener, then I don't even think that training camp is on the table at this point. You're just thinking, hey, just get better. You don't even know what the severity of this thing is, and you don't know how long it's going to take, but we just want to see this guy recover, and get back to the point. Because early in his career when he was in St. Louis, he had problems with being injured. And that was part of the reason he underachieved coming out of college, out of Nebraska. This was a guy that was highly productive in college, but he got to the league and he was just always injured and he couldn't show what he could do. Well, he came to Washington and he stayed relatively healthy. And so he was able to produce for us. So we don't want to see him fall back into that rut of being injured all the time. So let's hope that Adam Carriker can find a way to get through this, get 100% healthy, get back on the field, and play some good football for the Washington Redskins. So got another piece of bad news. And I'm pretty sure all of you have heard by now the news that Rob Jackson, big play Rob, going to be suspended for the first 4 games of the season for a painkiller prescription drug that he used that was banned by the league. So another Redskin being suspended by the league for 4 games due to an illegal substance being used. This sucks, but at the end of the day, you got to make sure you do your homework on these things. The NFL has a strict policy on substances that are banned by the league, and he used one that apparently was on that list, and he got caught. And so he's going to be suspended. The only thing that puts me at ease slightly, and when I say slightly, I mean barely puts me at ease, but it does, is the fact that Brian Orakpo should be back and ready to rock and roll for the start of training camp, for the start of the regular season, and he should be ready to go. And so it will lessen the impact of not having Rob Jackson because Brian Orakpo will be on the field. But then again, we've seen this story already. Orakpo does get hurt, and we're going to need someone to step in, and Rob Jackson will not be available for the first 4 games of the season. And I'm anxious to see how they employ this linebacking core, because if you bring Rob Jackson back, that means you have some sort of plan for him. And again, I want to know what you're going to do, because Ryan Kerrigan is on one side, Brian Orakpo will be back and healthy on the other side. Normally, these two don't come off the field that often. How are you going to get Rob Jackson on the field? I'm anxious to see that. Now I have to wait an extra 4 weeks, basically a month, to figure that out and see what the Redskins have in store for Rob Jackson playing in terms of him being on the field and what capacity is he going to be on the field. So that's frustrating because, A, he's gone for 4 weeks. And this guy is a walking big play. And he's a big play waiting to happen. And for him not to be on the field at all sucks. There's no other way to really say it. It's very unfortunate. However, I feel like we have Brian Orakpo out there. That makes me feel a little bit better. But then you also have the dynamic of Orakpo coming off of an injury himself and being a guy that has seemed to been getting injured very frequently of late. And so how do we know he can go 4 whole games without injuring himself and being able to play? And so there's a lot of things going on there, but at the end of the day, it's only 4 games. We will live. We will survive. It just is very, very unfortunate because the season hasn't even started. We haven't even gotten into the offseason that well, and we've already had a guy suspended. And let's hope this is the first and the last guy to be suspended for the Redskins in this season. You know, we had trouble with that last year. Jordan Black got suspended. Cedric Griffin got suspended last year. So we had several guys get suspended last season because of some sort of infraction with the league. And so we don't need to go down that road again this year. We need to start fresh, clean slate. Hopefully Rob Jackson is the first and the last guy to be suspended this season for any reason whatsoever. I don't care what it is. Conduct detrimental to the team, to the league, substance abuse. You know, Tanard Jackson was suspended last year as well. We don't need to go down that road this year. I don't want to hear about Redskins being suspended. So let's hope this is the last time we're discussing that at all. So now let's get to some of the good news. And really only have one piece of good news for you. I saved money on my car insurance by switching to Geico. Now I'm playing. Redskins signed E.J. Biggers this week. Helps us out at the cornerback position. I don't know what the Redskins have in store for him. Is he going to start? Is he going to be a guy that is in the slot? How is this going to work? Right now, we basically have 3 guys that we can count on at corner. And really 2, because we don't know what Richard Crawford is as a cornerback yet. We saw him sparingly in the 2012 season. And so we feel like, hey, we might have something with this guy, but you're not sure. But Richard Crawford, Josh Wilson, and now E.J. Biggers are our 3 corners right now. We need more, of course. And so we'll see what the Redskins decide to do in that area. But I feel like E.J. Biggers is definitely going to help us at the cornerback position. And he played well in spurts last season. Last year was by far his best year of his career. I mean, the years before that, I watched E.J. Biggers from afar and thought that this guy was a subpar to an average corner at best in the league. Last year, he actually played really well for Tampa Bay. And so he's probably going to end up starting for us this year. With the way our cap is set up and the way we don't have any money, you can't expect the Redskins to go into the draft and get a guy that can start for us immediately. Chase Minifield, if you remember, this is a guy we got last year. And so I don't know how he's doing with his surgery and how his rehab process has been going on. And it'd be nice to see him come back. I thought he was playing really well in the offseason last year before he re-aggravated his injury and had to have the surgery. So that'd be a nice guy to have come in and get something out of. That'd be a nice value pickup for the Redskins. But at the end of the day, our cornerback position is a work in progress. And so we got a lot of things that we have to take care of to get this thing on track. But getting E.J. Biggers was a step in the right direction. And so you have to feel good about that if you're a Redskins fan. And so that's going to do it for the Redskins Report. I am a Redskins fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Redskins spirit will never die. My Redskins spirit will never fold. So until we meet again, hail to the Redskins. Have a good one.
The Redskins Report.